Okay. All right, so we're doing Portacom, 549, 548 in the book. And what we're going to do is, what this problem has is we have the selling price per unit, we have the administrative cost, and we have the advertising cost. Now, in terms of the administrative and advertising costs, those are pretty much going to be just our fixed costs. There's two of them, so we're going to eventually add them together for our profit. Don't let the fact that there's two of them throw you. I mean, it's just two fixed costs. Your selling price per unit is, what it is. So eventually we're going to multiply that by the number of units to get our revenue. If we look over at the other boxes, let's go over to parts cost. You have your uniform distribution, which we've already covered. So we have our smallest value and our largest value in uniform distribution. We already know how to do that. Normal distribution, our mean and our standard deviation, that should look familiar. We already learned how to do that as well. The new piece is the direct labor cost. So let's look for a second at what that is. So basically what this is saying, and let's find the actual where they give us this data for Portacom. I believe, well, I don't remember where they gave it to us. Yeah, on table 12.1. This is what it'll often look like when they give it to you. You see it says direct labor cost per unit. This is on page 541. It says at $43, the probability is 0.1. At 44, it's 0.2. At 45, it's 0.4, and so on. So we have to turn that into something in Excel that's going to allow Excel to take that into account. So what this basically means is 4 out of 10 times the labor cost is going to be $45. 1 out of 10 times it'll be 43. So that's kind of another level of complexity, but you could see how in real life that would be practical. That may be something you know and or have figured out, and so you need to put it into your worksheet. So the way you could put this into Excel is all the probabilities have to total to 1.0, or else they're not probabilities. And so if you could set the lower and upper limits for each one. So we put 43 right here. And we know its probability is 1 from this chart, 0.1. So we go from 0 to 0.1. For 44, it's 2, 0.2 I should say. So we ended off at 0.1, so we'll start at 0.1, go to 0.3. For 45, it's 4, so we go 0.3 to 0.7. You guys get what I'm doing here? Is that making sense? We're just taking the number from the previous one, 0.3, and we're adding 0.4 to it to get 0.7. And we know for 46 here, it's 0.2, so we add 0.2 to 0.7, and we get 0.9, and the last one is 0.1, so we add 0.1 to 0.9, and we get 1.0. These always have to equal to 1.0. Is that making sense? Yell now if it doesn't. Okay. It looks more complicated than it is, like many things in this class. So just make sure it starts at 0 and ends at 1, and how the numbers fill in from there should be pretty logical. Okay, so let's get down to our actual trials now. So that's always the easiest column. We'll just start with trial 1. The first thing we're going to do is the direct labor cost per unit. So we're going to put all of this, we're going to use all of this data here that we used, and Excel is going to give us a number for it. And it's going to have to be random. So I wouldn't expect you guys to figure this one out on your own, so it was difficult enough for me to do it. So I did VLOOKUP. So, see if it won't let me make it smaller, bigger. So it's the letter V, LOOKUP, VLOOKUP, open. Now I'm going to start over. You guys stay where you are. I need to make this bigger so everyone can see it. It won't let me do that once I'm just typing. Okay, this should be easier. Equals VLOOKUP, open, rand, remember from the other day, random number, open, close, comma, $A, $10, colon, $C, $14, comma 3, close. Okay?
Our numbers are going to be different, right?
Your number is going to be either 43, 44, 45, 46, or 47, if you've done it right. Everybody have one of those numbers? Okay, now what we just did, I'll go ahead and put that back in there, but I want to show you what we've been doing, is we just told it to pick using those probabilities. So using VLOOKUP is telling it, see our range is A10 to C14, which is from here to here. Okay, it knows what to do. VLOOKUP is going to use those numbers, randomize it, because we told it to randomize it, and give us an answer. And the 3 is just for the 3 columns. And so it's going to give us one of those 5 numbers each time. We don't necessarily have to understand why it works as much as that it does work. VLOOKUP is a little bit complicated. At this point, I'm not too sure you guys want to get into the details of it. I mean, if you Google VLOOKUP, it'll show you how powerful that can be, how you could give a range of data and it can go pull things out based on the table that you give it, which can be for finance. I know as many of who here's finance? When you're dealing with large tables of data and you want to do a VLOOKUP, you can have it go pull out data and then finish a formula, and so you can have it go pull stuff out so you don't have to go manually do it. I've talked before about how automating things can save you a ton of time. VLOOKUP is very powerful in doing that. Did you guys cover VLOOKUP in IS applications? You did. Okay, good. Okay, so those of you that haven't had that class yet, it'll be familiar when you get into it, but yeah. So each time you enter something in, it'll be different. All right. Now we're going to do parts cost per unit. And parts cost is up here. Remember the uniform distribution which we did the other day? So let's enter in the formula. Equals $E $8 plus open $E $9 minus $E $8 times rand open close. Oh, I forgot a close. I'm sorry. After the 8 and before the multiplication sign, there's a close. Sorry about that. Okay, and I'll open that up again. You should get a number between 80 and 100. So if you have a number between 80 and 100, you got it right. We all good? All right. First year demand. Okay, this is the normal distribution, so we're going to do it like we did the normal the other day. So we're going to go equal sign, norm inverse, norm INV, open rand, open close, comma, $, E, $13, comma, $, E, $14, close. Remember, we're doing the $ so that we could do our trials. This first row will work, but that allows us to drag it down for 1,000 trials, or 500 trials in this case. All right, so if you enter it in, you should have a number within 9,000 of, well, it can be a little more or a little less. So you'd say somewhere between 3,000 and 27,000 would be where you'd want to be. Okay, profit. So now we're going to do our profit equation. This seems to throw everybody off a little bit. This should actually be the easy one. There's about 10 different ways you could enter this in and it'll work just as well. So just because I do it a certain way doesn't mean it can't be done other ways. So we're going to go equal sign open, $C, $3. And what is C3?
249.
249. I mean, so that's our revenue per unit. Minus, so we're going to subtract our cost per unit and our labor per unit. So that's minus B21 minus C21.
Is that dollar sign or just normal?
Just normal, because that's going to change each time you pull it down. So we're taking our revenue per unit minus our labor per unit minus our cost per unit. We're going to close that. Let me scroll up so you guys can see what I'm doing. And then we are going to multiply that by D21, which is going to be our demand per unit. So we got our total revenue times our total demand, and then we have to subtract our two fixed costs. So that's $C, $4, oops, minus $C, $5. So once again, don't get distracted by there being two fixed costs. You just subtract two things instead of one. Like I said, there's a lot of different ways to calculate what we just did. Your profit here, $310,000. So next thing.
Mine's in the millions. I got it.
Yeah. Mine's like,
I spent like, 2 million there.
mine's like 15 million. No, 1.5.
I'm just hitting delete. So if you're in this range, you're probably right. Okay, you guys feel? I know it's kind of, but if you, the way you know if it's right for the most part, well, if you entered it in right, it's probably right. But it's kind of tricky to tell is when we get, after we do the simulations and we start taking averages and probabilities, that's when you'll feel if there's a problem. Right now, it's kind of hard to tell. So let's drag this down for 500 trials. Remember, the little number over there tells you how many you've done. So I went too far. So there's 500, which in this case is row 520. Now I'm going to show you a little trick so you can keep your whole sheet open. Is I'm going to highlight row 519. Oops, too far. To 522. I'm going to right click and go, whoops, come on, right click, and go to hide. And what that does is it allows me to still see everything on one. My first row and my last row are, right, all the rest are hidden. They're still operational, but they're hidden. That way I could still see everything while I do my other calculations.
Where's the button?
The hide, I right click and there's an option for hide. So I know if you gotta.
So from 519 to 520.
Yeah, and you could hide them all. It wouldn't matter. But I just. It's a little tricky if you have a touchpad. It's kind of hard to highlight like that, but you guys are a little better than I have to use my little eraser head or a mouse to highlight. I can't do it otherwise. All right, and now we're going to do our summary statistics. Let's put those in C. So our summary statistics are going to be right here. And this is going to be just like we did the last time. So I'll let you guys get that typed in, and then I'll go ahead and show you how to do it. I'll raise that up for you.
Can you click on E again? On E5.
Sure.
'cause mine like is in the 14 million.
Yeah, that's not right.
But it's,
Is it identical?
yeah. That's oh,
Problem solved?
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, so mean profit is just like we did last time. So it's equals average, open, E21, colon, E520, close. Now I'm going to highlight that so it makes the rest easier. If you remember that from the other day. Enter. So standard deviation is equal STDEV. You guys should know this stuff by now. Then I'm going to paste in the E20 to E520. Enter. That's a big standard deviation. Next one, minimum, MIN. Paste. Max equals MAX. Paste. And I'll make all of the formulas visible to you in a second. Number of losses, this is count if. Comma, open, less than 0, close. Like I said, I'll open all these up in just a second. And the last one equals E527 divided by 500. All right. Okay, those are the formulas.